This is another episode of Noah Talks About Everything, and I'm doing this one. I'm going to stay true to the title of this YouTube channel. Noah Talks About Everything, and that means I really need to talk about everything. And I didn't want to get in the habit of just talking about uh, things that I don't want to really have an agenda with this channel. And so that I think that's the key is to me is to just try to make sure that I'm keeping this channel talking about a bunch of different subjects. So one of the subjects that I in particular is important in my life is this coronavirus because uh, my wife is Chinese and her family lives in Jining, which is one of the more affected areas currently in China. It's actually pretty far away from Wuhan, which is where the initial outbreak was and where it's most serious. But Jining had some kind of issue with a prison. Apparently, some prisoners in a prison in Jining uh, got the disease somehow. Apparently, to the negligence of somebody managing the prison or maintaining or running the prison, and it spread like wildfire in the prison, and now Jining has become, I guess, the number two most affected area for this disease. Um, Apparently, almost 80,000 people have died in China from this disease, and for for me and my wife, what I am most interested in is figuring out how or what the situation is for her parents and for her family, and in terms of they were planning to make a trip here to the U.S. in March, and basically all of the airlines have suspended flights from China to the United States, and so to a certain date, and that date was beyond the date which their trip was going to be, so they were no longer able to come. However, the there is apparently still a Chinese airline that is flying from China to the United States. And apparently, after talking to the USCIS, I discovered that if anybody arrives on American soil from China, they will be quarantined at the nearest military base for 2 weeks, I think a minimum of 2 weeks, to see if any signs of the disease, any symptoms present themselves during that time. And then if it is shown through them being in the quarantine and being observed for an extended period of time that they don't have the disease, then they can continue on and enter the United States and go to where they were going to proceed with their travel. And so I think that is, depending on how bad it gets in China, that is uh, a avenue, a route that I think we might end up trying to take. Of course, there's danger in the travel itself, and what I don't know is if they're quarantined in a military base, are all these people quarantined together, and does that increase the chance that they could contract the disease while being quarantined? I mean, of course, if they were quarantined together, it would greatly increase the chance that they contract the disease. So I would hope that any quarantine that's happening, these people are being kept separate until it's determined who has the disease and who doesn't, or if anybody has this disease. Um, so what they're doing now in Jining, what Shuang's family is doing now in Jining is basically hunkering down and not going anywhere. I think that many of the living facilities, many of the apartment complexes, they are everyone's just staying inside their apartment and not going out. And grocery deliveries are being made by specific people. I think at this point, I don't know that anybody or the vast majority of people are not leaving their apartment or their house or whatever. So the traveling itself, well, now also I've heard from my wife that the disease has started to break out in Japan and Korea, and actually another city in China called Qingdao is has had the outbreak of the disease to a greater extent. It's like the number three maybe place that has the most impact of that disease within China, and I think that that's because it's a coastal city. And this is what Shuang was telling me from what she's reading in her news sources, that since Qingdao is a coastal city, it has lots of tourism and travel back and forth between Japan or Korea, and yeah, so basically that's the situation. The way that the United States is handling immigration is interesting, and it doesn't matter if you are a relative or a citizen or whatever. If you arrive on a trip from China to the United States at this time, you will be quarantined for 2 weeks at a military base. It doesn't matter any like your relationship to anybody. So I thought that was really interesting. Just some information about the coronavirus. Yeah, thanks for listening to this episode of Noah Talks About Everything. Hopefully it was informative to you, and have a good day.